What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with another tune from the We Save Us playlist. Again, shout out to all those involved, especially Kim, who's set out a set of themes and Tears for Fears quote related to the tunes in the playlist, as well as to Yvonne and Michaela, who have contributed tracks. And the next one is another tune from Yvonne, which is a Rufus Wainwright track, Going to a Town, I believe it's called. I'll check again in a moment. I'm hoping I have that right. But actually, Yvonne sent me Rufus Wainwright a long time ago, and I think eventually I tried to rip it onto my computer, but there was some issue with the CD, so the Rufus Wainwright deep dive actually was supposed to have started already, but again, I think there was a problem with the CD, if I'm remembering correctly. In any case, we are going to listen to some Rufus Wainwright now, and Kim gave me a little context for this one as well as, once again, a quote from Tears for Fears, and this quote from Tears for Fears is, of course, one of my favorites, which is, "In violent times, you shouldn't have to sell your soul," and if you've ever heard their incredible song, Shout, you'll be familiar with that. But yes, the tune is called Going to a Town. It's from an album called Release the Stars 2007, and the note that Kim put here is it's a Canadian-American artist who wrote about our downturn over 20 years ago. The song is even more perfect now. So here we go. This is Rufus Wainwright, Going to a Town, part of the We Save Us playlist.
I'm going to a town that has already been burned down. I'm going to a place that has already been disgraced. I'm gonna see some folks who have already been let down. I'm so tired of America. I'm gonna make it up for all of the Sunday times. I'm gonna make it up for all of the nursery rhymes that never really seem to want to tell the truth. I'm
lyrics are incredible, and they were not only prescient when they were written and also historical, but also they very much are as relevant now as ever, which again is always a mark of a good song. I've talked about some punk songs that I'm fond of that were written in the 80s or certainly multiple decades ago, and then you listen to them now and it's like, it's actually more relevant now. Like, it actually fits even better now than when they were written. And I feel like that is the case here. So yes, talking to America as a personified entity and suggesting that not only is there blood-soaked hyper-religiosity devoid of morals and compassion, not only is it referencing the way in which violence is an outgrowth of this sense that they can do no wrong, that, do you think everything you've ever done is right? And, upon what grounds do you feel justified for thinking that? And, what level of self-delusion must you engage in to whitewash all of the, sordid or at least complicated and in many cases unpleasant aspects of history, domestic and foreign, to adopt that kind of hyper-nationalistic view, again, steeped in, like, intense, self-righteous hyper-religiosity. And, the line about, like, Jesus, blood-soaked Jesus, I feel like is a, not only a very powerful line, but one that, drives right to the core of what he's saying here. And again, this idea of an America that, people had looked up to and valued and seen as, like, actually when the chips were really down, thinking about World War I, World War II, fought against authoritarianism, fought against prejudice, and, what was the question that, like, do you really think people should go to hell because they want to love a certain way that might be, outside the bounds of what is considered, like, moral, and again, a very narrow and self-serving religious attitude, and again, at a time when people in the LGBT communities are particularly under attack and, seen as less than desirable or even, dehumanized. It's the kind of lyric that is as relevant now as it's ever been. So yeah, the idea of America, having the world's favor, having the world's ear, and, being seen as someone, or a personified entity that on some level, and for all its hypocrisies and checkered past, stood up when it really counted for democracy instead of authoritarianism, for pluralism instead of, genocidal extremism and so on. And look what you did. You went about exploiting and marginalizing and basically forsaking all of that goodwill that you may have built up. So again, I think a lot of these lines are incisive. Again, it's the kind of tune that would likely annoy people who have a, like, very sanitized and whitewashed understanding of, their particular culture and their nationalistic views and so on. But again, I think even if somehow you're on that side of the fence, it's the kind of thing you need to hear. If you're tuning out everything that's outside of your own, religio-cultural nationalistic paradigm, then you're essentially in an echo chamber. And if that's all you ever want to hear, I think that's telling in terms of your disposition to blot out anything that may complicate the narratives that you hold firm. So yeah, a really incredibly written tune. The judgment of the lyrics, I think, comes through in some of the vocals, and it does have a bit of a melancholic, like, God, everything's, sort of falling apart. I gotta get out of here. I gotta, get away from this. I'm done with you. So that really does come across in the sonics as well. Another great tune. Do let me know what you think, and I will see you for the next one. Peace.